Hi everyone. So I know all of you have been waiting for this question. Yeah, most of you have been waiting for this question 15. So this is the simplest question in that tutorial sheet. All you just need to understand is just to know how a sine graph and a cos graph and probably even a tan, how it comes out when you're drawing it. Because these types of graphs are just like repetitions. You just repeat the same things. So I'll start with question A, but before I start, let me show you the simple forms in which the graphs come out. The graph, let's take for instance the graph for sine x. So the graph for sine x, the way it comes out is like this. You draw something like this. So this is the y-axis, and then this other one is the x-axis. This is the x. Yes. So this is the starting point, the 0. So I'll put 1 there, and I'll put -1 down there. So when you type on a calculator, so I'll put pi there. I'll put pi there. Of course, when you're drawing these things, you're supposed to have you're supposed to be using radians, and then 2 pi there. So 2 pi is just nothing but 360, and then pi is equal to 180. So meaning the half of pi there is pi over 2, like that. And then there you have I think 3 over 2 pi. So yeah, you have 3 over 2 pi. So let's try to type on your calculator. You can play around with your calculator if you have. You try to type sine 0. Sine 0, you discover that it will still give you 0. Sine pi over 2, which is just the same as sine 90, it will give you 1. And then you go to sine 180, which is sine pi, you get 0. Again, let me use a different color maybe. Okay. Yes, so when you get you type sine 0, you get sine 0, you get 0, and then sine 90, which is sine pi over 2, you get 1. Then sine 180, which is sine pi, you get 0. Sine 270 or sine 3 over 2 in radians, pi in radians, you get a -1. And then try to punch sine 360, you have your 0 there. So in short, a sine graph always comes out like this. So this is how it comes out. And then, so this is y. So this is y is equal to, so this is y, sorry, is equal to sine, this is y is equal to sine x. And then if you have, let's take for instance, if you have y is equal to negative sine x, you have a negative this side. So if you have a negative that side, the graph will change. Instead of going up, the graph will now be, so instead of going up, the graph will go down. You press sine 0, you still be there. Sine 90, you get 1, but since there is a negative outside, if there is a negative this side, to make you have a -1, which implies that you're going to have points like this, there, then there, and then go back there. So meaning it will move like this. So this is how it will move. So this one is y is equal to negative sine x. That's the way it comes out. Let's also try to see how a cosine graph comes out like. Let's try to test it. So first let me put this on one corner. Why is it refusing? Anyway, let me just leave it like this. Okay, so we're trying to, yeah, so this was a sine graph. Let's now see how a cos graph looks. I'll draw it this side. So this was sine, then let me now draw a cos. Y is equal to cos x. So if I have cos x like that, I'm going to have something like this. So this is a 0 there, then I'll have a 1 there, I'll have a negative 1 there. So this is now y, then this is x this side. Let's now try to see. So if you type on your calculator, let's say what is cos 0. Cos 0, you discover that it's 1. So you have your point, the first point on 1 there. Let me just change the color. So you have your first point on 1. So your first point will be there on 1, and then you try to type on your calculator what is cos half or cos 90. Let me just use normal angles in degrees. Cos 90 or cos pi over 2. You still get you get something like this. It will come like this. It will be a 0 there. Then you try to type on your calculator what is cos 180. Cos 180, you discover that it will give you negative 1. Cos 180, you get negative 1. So 180 there. If you want, you can just write pi. Yeah. Cos 180, you get negative 1. Then to go back there, this is how it goes. So this is a sine, also this is a cosine graph. So this would be 2 pi, which is 360. Oh sorry, this will be 270 there. So this will be 270, and then it goes on up to 360 that side. Yeah, up to 360. So from there, now, so this was a graph for y is equal to cos theta. So this is a graph for y is equal to cos x or cos theta, is just the same. So let us now see how the graph for y is equal to negative cos x is going to look. So the same applies to this. The opposite is the case. So if there's a negative here, if there's a negative there, let me write it in white so that you don't get confused. So if there's a negative there, or let me just use another color of blue. So if there is a negative there, you discover that your answer will come out as like something like this. Instead of it starting on top there, it's starting down, then to go like that. So that is how the one with the negative will look. Y is equal to negative cos x. Yes, this is how it's going to look. So now one may begin to wonder that how about when you have a number here in front, or you have a number there in front, how is the graph going to look like? So the number here, okay, let me just start a new page here. Yeah, even this is just okay, but let me just delete them. Okay, they might be of use at some point. Let me just start. So if you have a number here, let me write it here. So you have something like y is equal to maybe 2, let me use letters, symbols, a sine maybe 3x, maybe say bx. Let me just use symbols, bx, and then plus c, or plus or minus c, and then close brackets, and then plus or minus d. Yes, so the way you solve such kind of questions is simple. So this first one here, this number here, which is always at the beginning of sine x, just know to say this is the amplitude, this is the amplitude, and then the number here on b determines what your period is going to be. And then period, you should know to say period, is given by 2 pi, which is a complete cycle, a complete revolution over b, and then plus c. So this is the period. This is how you find the period, over b and then plus c. This is how you find the period. And then this one here is nothing but the vertical shift. So this one is just the shift. Let's take, for instance, if you have if this is your diagram, and then this is your sine diagram. If our d, okay, let me just write it like this. So our amplitude, so our a is just the amplitude, meaning the maximum and the minimum. This will be negative a. Oh, sorry, yeah. Anyway, the diagram is bent. But let me just draw it bent as well. So negative a, yeah, and then positive a, it has to pass there on this point, and then it has to pass at that point. Yes. So from there, so this is our amplitude. This is our value of a, negative a and positive a. And then and then our d, and then sorry, this point here is the one that we're calling the period. So period is nothing but the units that the curve, or that a wave takes to complete one cycle. So this is where you put your period there. So this is a complete cycle. That's the reason why I've called that point as p. And then amplitude is negative a and positive a there. And then when you talk about this d can be at any point. It can either be negative or positive. Yeah, it can either be negative or positive. So it can either be here or there, or negative d. So if the d is positive, it means that I'm going to draw a line here, and then this one, the reason why d is called shift, is because it will make this graph to shift up. So it's going to shift so it's going to come like this. Instead of starting at 0, it will start at d. So it will just shift the graph. And then there is also another thing that we also need to know, which is let's take for instance when you have, which is I'll call it the horizontal shift, which will shift this graph, which will shift the starting point of the graph. Okay, let me just go straight to the questions so that we finish fast. Okay, so the first question here is fx is equal to 1 minus cos x, and then the domain that we've been given is 0 to 2 pi. So I'll first write the question, which is fx. So instead of fx, I'll say, okay, in all the questions that I'm going to solve here, instead of using fx, let me just say y. I'll just let my fx be equal to y. Yes, so that in every question that I'm going to solve starting from this point, I'll be using y instead of fx. So this is 1 minus cos x, and the domain is being given to be 0 up to 2 pi. So I'm going to have something like this. Y, this is the question, this is question A. Y is equal to 1 minus cos, this is 1 minus cos x, and then the domain is 0. The domain is 0. Let me see the types of brackets that have been given. Okay, so the domain that has been given is 0 to 2 pi. So this is just the other way of writing that domain. Don't get confused, it's just the same as that. So this is the domain that has been given. So what I'm going to do here is simple. I'm going to first draw a sketch. Remember, this one is the shift, and then since my cos is negative, the graph is supposed to come out like this one in blue. Since my cos is negative, it is going to come out like this in blue. And then let me see first, what is the question? Okay, it's there. So I'm going to start drawing. I'll first sketch this XY plane. I'll sketch it like that. So I'll put my 0 there, and then this is my y. If you are using fx, put fx there, and then this is my x. And then this one, I'll put it there. This is 1. This is 1. So this one, I'll draw a line on 1. This is the shift I'm drawing. This is 1. If it was negative, I would have drawn it below here, below the x-axis. Now since it's positive, it's supposed to be on top there. So this is my 1. And then apart from that, I'm also supposed to look at the amplitude. The amplitude is just simply the number that is just outside this cos. And according to me there, my amplitude is it's 1. My amplitude is 1. So my amplitude is 1 there. So meaning I'll move 1 step going up, meaning I'll go on 2. And I'll move on 1 step going down, which will take me to 0. So this is how my graph is going to be moving. So my minimum point is 0, and then my maximum point is 2. And then since the domain that has been given is 2 pi, I'll write my 2 pi here. I'll write my 2 pi there. So this domain is simply telling me to say whatever that I'm going to draw should be in this same domain. It shouldn't exceed 2 pi. So now let us now start drawing. First, let me find the midpoint of 2 pi is going to be pi. It's going to be pi. So I'll say, what is cos 0? Cos 0, of course, we all know to say it's 1. So instead of me going on 1, this will be my axis. This is going to be my origin. So I'm going to start from 2 instead of starting from 1. I'm going to start from 2 like that. Pi to come like that, and then to go like that. So now this is how my graph is going to come out. So this point here is pi over 2. We all know that. I'm assuming we've learned from what I just taught some minutes ago. And then this one is 3 over 2 pi. Yes. So if this is the drawing that I'm going to have, this is the sketch that I'm going to have. Now this one is a positive cos. This one is for positive cos. Now how is my negative cos going to look like? So my negative cos will just be the opposite of this. So in short, I'm going to start from, let me use a different color. So the answer now, this was not the answer. So since cos is negative, my drawing is going to start from there. Instead of 2, it will start down there to be like this. Yes. So this is now the answer. The one in blue is my answer. So my y is equal to 1 minus cos x. So this is my answer. We are done with the first question there. So the second question, the second question will be, the second question is sine, which is negative 2 plus sine x minus 2 over pi. So this one is going to be, it's a little bit tricky. Should be careful when answering such questions. So negative 2 plus sine x. So b is going to be, so b is y is equal to negative 2 yes. So this is the question, which is negative 2 plus sine x minus negative 2 plus sine x minus pi over 2, and this is our domain that we've been given. So when answering such type of questions, we will first also do the sketching of our graph. So this is going to be my graph. This is going to be my graph. I'll just make a simple one there. Let me just write it like this. Since I know that my shift is negative 2, so I'll write it like that. So my shift is negative 2, and of course I'll write it there, negative 2. And then this is negative 1, this is 3, this is negative 3. So I'll write my axis there as well. Yes. So from there, this is my 1, and then this is x. Yes, so this is x, and this is my starting point at 0. So looking at this, I know to say the curve for sine always comes out like this when it's positive, and when it's negative goes out like that. And now according to this question it's positive, so it's going to come out like this. I know that. You just have to put this in mind. And then from there, I know that my shift is -2. That's the reason why I've drawn another axis here. And then let us now deal with this. So I want to know the starting point. Remember what I said? I said if you want to know the starting point, or where your graph is going to start from, you first have to do what? You get this. You get that x minus pi over 2, and then you equate it to 0. So the value of x where the graph is going to start from is pi over 2. So it's going to be pi over 2. So your graph is going to start from pi over 2. So I'll write my pi over 2 there. So I'll write my pi over 2 there. And then where is it going to end? Or rather, what is going to be my period? Remember what I said? I said period is nothing but period is going to be 2 pi. It's going to be 2 pi over b. So according to this, my b is 1. B is just the coefficient of x there. So b is 1, and then plus or minus this. So this will be minus half. So sorry, that was just an error. It was just a mistake. Something went wrong. All right, let's continue. So our p is going to be 2 pi over 1. I said it's supposed to be 2 pi over b. My b is there, is just the coefficient of x there, which is 1, and then minus pi over 2. Now, are we going to put a minus here or a plus? You just get this. This is what you get. So it's going to be a plus, not minus. Sorry. Yeah, it's going to be a plus there. So I'm going to have plus pi over 2, and then p is equal to, when you add these two, you discover that your answer will be 5v over 2 pi. But I think this, if you just know how to sketch these graphs, these are not even necessary, because looking at how your questions are being phrased, it's like these things have been given. Look at this half is just this, and then you look at this p is just that. So meaning the domain, what I'm trying to make here is the domain. Now, so I'm giving you concepts. Let's take for instance, if you've been given a question without them providing the domain, you can make your own domain like what I've done here. So I was trying to make the domain, and it has come out. So in short, my graph is going to start from half and end. It's going to start at half and end at 5 over 2. So I'll put my 5 over 2 there, like that. I'll put my 5 over 2 there, like that. Actually, these numbers are supposed to be put there. Now I'm putting them there just to help you understand. This is where they're supposed to be. So this is where they're supposed to be. So this is 5 over 2 pi. So this is 5 over 2 pi. So now, apart from this, what will be next? We have found the domain. Now it's time for us to start sketching. So what is half of 5 5 over 2 pi. What is half of this? So sorry, not half of this. What is the midpoint of these two numbers? So the midpoint of these two numbers is when you subtract 5 over 2. So when you subtract a half from 5 over 2, you get something like so the midpoint of this is just 1, I think, because when you subtract 0.5, this is 2.5 minus 0.5, you get a 2, and then the half of 2 is 1. And then we all know that the sine graph always comes out like this, since it's positive there. So this is how it's going to be. It's going to start from there and then go up and then come and cut the right there and then comes back there. So this is how my graph is going to be. It is just as simple as this. Not very difficult, but it's straightforward. So now, since I've realized now that you've been given the domain, you've been given all this in your questions, so I'm just going to be drawing the graphs direct. We're not going to be doing this. So let's check the next question. So the second last question is this one, which says, okay, I'll let my fx, so I'll let my fx, I don't want to be writing fx everywhere, so I'll just let my fx be equal to y. So while there will be fx there, I'll put y. So this second last question is saying, while this fx I'll just replace with y, is saying 2 cos half 2 cos half x minus 3 over 2. And then the domain has been given from negative pi to 5 pi. So first of all, like I earlier on said, we first have to find the domain, or the domain has been given, sorry. So we're going to find our own domain, which is going to consist of only one oscillation. So in this domain, I don't know how many oscillations are there, but I want to make a domain that is just going to consist of one oscillation. Sorry, not one oscillation, but one cycle. So to find the domain, you first have to, okay, first of all, you need to know that the amplitude here is, why this? So you need to know first the amplitude there that is being given is, the amplitude is 2. The amplitude is 2. And then to find the domain, you first get this angle here that has been given, you equate it to 0. So my angle there is 1 over 2 is equal to 0. It's supposed to be 1 over 2x is equal to 0. So my value of x is equal to 0. Let me also find the period now. So the period, so this value of x that I've found, this is the point where my curve is going to start from. So let me also find now p, the period. And then the period, you should know to say it's just the units that it takes for one complete cycle. It's the units for one complete cycle. So the period is just given by 2 pi. Period is given by 2 pi over b. And then my b here is just the coefficient of x. So the coefficient of x there is 2. Oh, sorry, it's 1 over 2. So my period is nothing but 4 pi. So my period is 4 pi. Hope this is going to help somebody out there. I know this is a challenge to most people, but I'm trying by all means to use simple means. So after finding the period, you can now find the end point, meaning the point where, so we said this value of x is where, this is the value of x where the curve is going to start from. Now let us find the point where the curve is going to end. So the end point, the curve is going to end. So I'll just call it EP. So the end point where the curve is going to end is just adding this. You add the thing, you add the period. So it is just period plus the value of x that you found. So the end point will now be period, which is 4 pi. So 4 pi plus 4 pi plus x. That is the end point. Oh, sorry, my x there now has changed, this 0. So instead of writing that, I'll put 0. So this is going to be 4 pi plus 0, which gives me just 4 pi. So meaning the first cycle is going to start from 0 and end at 4 pi. So now from there I think I can even start drawing my my curve. So I'll write it like that, then it's going this side. So this is 0, so this is 0, then if this is my 0, I'll write my first point there. My first point is x, and remember we're dealing with cos. So we know to say the graph, and since cos is positive, we know to say the graph has to come out like this. This is one complete cycle for cos. So the period, the amplitude is 2. So meaning I'm going to move 2 units going up from this starting point, and 2 units going down. So from there, what you do is, we know that our cycle is going to start from 0 and end at 4 pi. So I'm going to write units from 0 up to 4 pi. Let me write, okay, I'll just assume my 4 pi is here. This is my 4 pi. And then what is the midpoint of 0 and 4 pi? Of course I know that it's 2 pi. 2 pi, and then the midpoint of 2 pi and 4 pi is 3 pi. Oh. So it's 3 pi, sorry. So the midpoint of 4 pi and 2 pi is 3 pi, and the midpoint of 0 and 2 pi is pi. So let me draw my first cycle. Oh, sorry. My first cycle will now be, so my first cycle will start from there, and then, it is supposed to start from 2 and then going down. My first cycle will start from 2 and then going down like that. End at 2 there, and then this is the first complete cycle. that I have. And then remember that I was told to say my domain. I know most of you are thinking about this, but don't worry, we'll look at it. I just want to show you the simplest way of doing this instead of complicating things. And then the domain is from negative pi to 5 pi. So I'll add my domain now. So negative pi can be somewhere there approximately, and then 5 pi can be somewhere there. So this will come and drop at 5 pi like that. Then this side it is going to drop at negative pi. Okay. So from there, let us see where it's going to take us. Now we consider this. This one is a shift. So this one is going to shift this curve, going down negative 3 over 2 times. So let me even change the color. So now this is not the answer, but this is close to the answer. But okay, it's the answer, but it is not yet shifted. Now let us shift it. So I'm going to shift it by this unit, by these units there. 3 over 2 units. So 3 over 2 units is just somewhere here. It's 1.5. I'll say it's somewhere there. So this is negative 3 over 2 units. So at this point, I'm going to draw an axis like that. So I'm going to draw an axis like that. So after drawing this axis, let it also go this side. Now let us shift this curve. So my pi there is there. Or first, let us first put the amplitude. So the amplitude from this line, we said the amplitude for this is 2. So what we're going to do is whether negative or positive, it doesn't matter. The amplitude is 2. So we're going to move 2 units going up from 3 over 2. So which is just the same as adding negative 3 over 2 plus 2. When you add negative 3 over 2 plus 2, you get half, which is 1 over 2, to be somewhere there. And then when you add when you add negative 3 over 2 minus 2, you add 2 and then you subtract 2 again. So when you subtract 2, you are going to have negative 3 over 2 minus 2, you get 7 over 2, which is just going to be here. So this 7 over 2 will now be our minimum point. So straight coming down here, that's why your curve is going to start. So this is now our answer. To drop down to 7, then to cut at 3 over 2, and then like that. And it will end there. So it has shifted. So this is now the final answer. So this one is now the answer for the answer that we've been looking for. This is the one. Y equal 2 cos half x. Let me not delete this later. Yeah, so this is our y. So this is what we were supposed to draw. So the one in blue is the final answer. This one was just I just had to draw it so that you may understand it properly. You may see the steps, the way they move clearly. So let's move to the last question. last question is 1 plus sine 2x. So of course I've said I'm going to be using y, so I'll write y is equal to 1 plus sine 2x, 1 plus sine 2x, then plus 2 over 3 pi plus 2 over 3 pi plus 2 over 3 pi. So this is our question. This is our question. So this is D. So in the same way we did this one, we're going to first start by looking at the amplitude and everything. So my amplitude here, you just get the coefficient of a trig ratio there. So the amplitude is equal to 1 in that case. According to this question, the amplitude is here, which is just 1, and then this curve is going to shift by 1, but I like it when I shift the curve at the end, at last. Yes, for you guys who are using, let's say for instance you are writing an exam and then you're using a pen or a pencil to draw this, you can draw this in dotted lines. The first one you draw it in dotted lines, and then you come and shift it in a bold line now. So my amplitude on this one is equal to 1, and then from there let's find the period. The period we said is just 2 pi over the coefficient of x here, 2 pi over b, I call it b, 2 pi over the coefficient of x, which is 2. So our period is pi. So it takes pi units for this curve to finish one cycle. So I'm going to have pi units for each cycle, So meaning, so we're going to have pi units for each cycle. So in short, in our drawing we're going to have two cycles. Since we've been given the domain to be, let me just check the domain. So the domain that has been given is from 0 to 2 pi. So if it is taking us pi units to have one cycle, meaning in 2 pi we are supposed to have 2 cycles. So the graph that we're going to draw should have 2 cycles. So we can start drawing. First we're done with finding period. Let us finish everything in advance first. Let us find the first point where our first cycle is going to start from. So to find the first point, you have to equate all this to 0. So we're going to say 2x plus 2 over 3 pi. 2x plus 2 over 3 pi is equal to 0. So when you calculate this properly, you discover that your value of x will be nothing but negative pi over 3. So this is going to be your value of x. So this is the first point that our curve is going to start from. So our domain, let me just write our domain here, D. Yeah. So our domain is from 0 to 2 pi. These are supposed to be square brackets. Sorry for writing these brackets. They're supposed to be square brackets. These. Okay. So x is equal to pi over 3. That's our first point. Let us find our last point where the curve is going to end. So our last point, I'll name it as the end point. The end point of our first cycle is going to be, we said we are supposed to add the period plus the value of x. So the period is equal to, our period is equal to pi, and then our value of x is negative pi over 3. So the end point that we are going to have on our graph is going to be 2 over 3 pi. So our first cycle is going to move from negative pi over 3 to 2 over 3 pi. That is our first cycle. So now let us quickly go into drawing the curve. So this was our value of x. So it's going to start from this point, from pi over 3, and end at 2 pi over 3. That is our first cycle. Yeah, so now we can start drawing. I think from this point you can now sketch your curve. I think I leave it here. Just go on and sketch the curve. See you next time. So this is the line that you're supposed to use to send your questions. If you have any questions, you can send it on WhatsApp using this line. Subscribe, don't forget.